Good morning and welcome to Leah Love Juicy Diamonds. I am your host, Leah Love, and I am super excited about today's topics. In Juicy Diamonds, I am all about juicy transformation, the nuts and bolts of transformation, the nitty-gritty, the thoughts and the feelings that we hide from others are the very nuggets that can create the most powerful shifts in our lives. We all want the best, even when we don't or won't admit it. So here in Juicy Diamonds, you will find your sacred, trusted space to listen, to grow in, to sit with your special power, your nuggets, and mold them into your very own diamonds. Today I have a topic that's rather personal and also very, very near and dear to my heart. And it is the topic of my transformation and transition into a more feminine space within myself. And I study quite a bit because I understood that just by living on autopilot for so many decades in my life, I was really not bringing in information and knowledge that created major shifts in my life. Also, I really wasn't in a space where I was able to receive major shifts anyway. But once I finally was forced into a corner or my back against the wall in terms of having made some life decisions and choices that really negatively affected me to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. That was about 8 years ago. And it really changed my life once I finally had enough, once I finally got sick of being sick and tired. And I made some decisions that I needed to learn more. I needed to make dramatic shifts, and I needed to have a whole lot of courage to change my life, and more so to walk away from my life at that time. And so learning is really, really important. Studying is really, really important. Particularly in the past 3 to 4 years, I have just been a sponge, learning any and everything I could about any topic that I felt was going to enhance my life. And I was really, really excited to make that shift and that transition. So that's a little bit of a background to why I study. And I have been led from one great teacher to another great teacher. You know, they always say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so I allow myself the freedom to walk down a path where I learn something that deeply intrigues me, and then I begin to ask more questions, and I leave it to my own higher power, the universe, whatever you'd like to call it. I leave it to that to bring me the answers in the most, unexpected ways. And so I landed upon Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I have literally been devouring his information over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and it's just been amazing. And this morning I was listening to something that just literally knocked me off my bed, so to speak, and he was talking about the different brain waves, and he went through a discussion of the beta brain waves into the alpha, into the theta, into the delta, and then finally into gamma. And he really broke it down nicely, the difference between these brain waves. And I definitely will probably speak on that a little bit more, because this morning I said to myself, you know what, I really want to learn more about the differences between the brain waves, because he often talks about them and how to utilize those different brain waves to affect transition and change in your life, and to relieve yourself of many of the habits and conditioning that negatively or adversely affects our lives. And he went back after discussing all of these different brainwave. He went back into discussing the high beta wave, and he showed us a chart that it showed the differences between the brain waves from beta all the way up to gamma. And the high beta had the highest frequency. It had off the charts numbers in terms of how many cycles the brain does per second, and it can go up to 50 cycles per second when it's in high beta. So, what is high beta? High beta is your fight or flight mode, and it is a state of being, so to speak, where your brain is aroused from an external experience. So, in other words, when you become frightened or when you are highly stressed, or let's give an example of, an animal that's being chased by a predator. At that state, when it is running from its predator, when it is the prey, it is in fight or flight mode. All the adrenals are just off the charts. It's running back and forth from left to right, hiding, ducking, trying to outrun the predator. It is in survival mode. And so if you imagine a deer being chased by, a predator, that's exactly what high beta functionality is. And when we take it to the human level, we think about survival mode when our finances aren't right, when our emotional well-being isn't right, when we're in a very toxic relationship with, a partner or a husband or wife, or when we are in a toxic work environment, or when we're in a high stress work environment, we are in high beta mode. That means our brain cycles are off the charts. We are in a state of mind and in a bodily state, which is a state in which there is, no time to learn, really. You don't have time to really go within. You don't have time to open your heart. It's not a time to trust. It's not a time to sit still. It's not a time to create community and connect. It's not a time to think loving thoughts. It's really a time to run and to run fast. It's a time to fight. It's a time to protect yourself. It's a time to hide, or it's a time to freeze. Many spend the majority of their lives and the majority of their waking days in this high beta mode. So when you think about that, when I was thinking about that, I kind of had a huge aha moment, because when I was in high masculine energy, high masculine state of thinking in my past, when I was most unhappy, I was high stressed. I had a lot of anxiety. My adrenals were shot. I was constantly ripping and running and managing everything as the masculine person in my relationship. I was running the finances in the home. For lack of a better choice of words, I was basically like a single mom, though I was in a marriage, and it was incredibly exhausting. My every waking day was about taking care of everyone else, running all the errands, doing the day job, and making the most money. And even at the day jobs, it was very stressful. I didn't like my coworkers. I didn't like my supervisors. I was always in fear that I, had to do twice as much in order to keep my job. And I think about those times where I did not have time to focus on myself. I did not have time for self-care. I was not able to create really close relationships based on fluidity and nurturing. I was not able to nurture myself. I was really not able to nurture my children very well. I was basically like a drill sergeant, just getting them through the day, running through the schedule and the extracurricular activities. And I just wasn't able to really connect with life in general. Time was running me, I wasn't running time. And if you're like me, I bet you're having a hallelujah moment if you're thinking about perhaps the life that you're living right now that you can't seem to get out of. It feels like it's an unending cycle. And I thought about the fact that, in that time of fight or flight, in that time of survival mode, when I did not believe that I deserved better, when I did not believe that, when I did not feel entitled to a life that's focused on self-love and self-care, and a life that's focused on the feminine aspects of me. I did not feel worthy of that. I did not feel it was possible, at least for me. I thought that that type of life was for other people. And so I continuously made decisions that did not support my femininity, that did not support the feminine aspects of myself. And I made choices in life partners also that required that I be more masculine, that required that I put in more than 50%, or that I do it all. And I think about many of the women in my circles, many of the women that I coach. They've done the same and they speak the same story. And so it's very, very familiar. But that route back to our femininity can be very arduous at times when, especially, it's an oxymoron when we think about femininity being in the receptive mode. It's more relaxation. It's being in an internal space where you are able to feel yourself, where you're able to feel your thoughts, where you're able to be more nurturing and more fluid, where you effect change from an emotional space, a healthy emotional space, where you allow, where you receive, where you receive in order to give. You receive first and then you give. And as you have created a life around you where you are in receptive mode, this is quite the opposite of fight or flight mode, where you are having to have a major output just to survive. And you notice that if someone's chased you, or if you've had a huge fright, let's say a loud sound or something that just, has you jumping out of your seat. If you notice all of that energy and adrenaline that rushes through your system, directly afterward, you're a little bit tired or a lot tired. And that's how I felt all the time. But in feminine mode, you ensure that you have the rest that you need. You ensure that you take stock of your internal state of well-being, and you stop the clock if you need to take care of yourself first, because you understand that your role in your life as a nurturer and a caregiver requires that you first have it to give. And that's ultimately very paramount to your internal success and well-being, is understanding what you need first and foremost and not feeling guilty about that. And so as I made choices in my life where I decided to stop dating certain men after my divorce, I decided to no longer be attracted to a lifestyle that required me to do the heavy lifting and the heavy work. And I began to transition into a more feminine life, and realizing that in order for me to be more feminine, that means I needed another individual in my life to play the masculine role. And that duality, that complementary pairing of energies, is what creates a really beautiful balance. And in order to do that, I had to go inward, because when you are in fight or flight mode, when you're in survival mode, your life experiences are dependent on an external factor. So if you have a predator chasing you, or if you have bill collectors chasing you and they're affecting your mood, they're making you feel anxious and anxiety because you don't have the money, rent is coming up, and you're looking for where to find these coins, and everything that you're really focusing on is an external factor. which is why, because you're in fight or flight mode, you don't have time to focus on the internal. You don't have time for self-care, self-love. You don't have time to promote happiness and joy and stability within yourself, relaxation, well-being, inner peace. That is not a time to promote that, because you're just trying to survive and stay alive. And so it's so interesting how when we have women in various self-help groups, and they're super sick and tired of being sick and tired, but they don't know how to transition into a life of well-being and health. And that's because excuse me, they have spent the last several decades, or however long it may be, focusing on external factors just so that they could survive. But changing that inner compass to orient itself inwards is a whole different process, and that requires a lot of work and focus and a lot of presence of mind and intentionality in order to shift and transition your life for a more internally based lifestyle. And that's so critical and necessary when you want to discover your feminine side and your femininity. And so for me, that's why I realized that I had previously been conditioned to a life of pain, a life of anxiety, a life of no support for myself. And this is where habits and bad habits come into plays. Many people experience addictions when they're highly stressed, to addiction to food, addiction to fear, addiction to anger, addiction to so many things out there that we think are providing us with a sense of empowerment or providing us with a sense of comfort. And so living a lifestyle of fight or flight or high beta, highly stressed lifestyle, it affects our health, high blood pressure, diabetes, just thyroid issues. So many things happen when we live this lifestyle, which is why so many women's health are declining. Fertility issues are another big thing. PCOS, endometriosis, so many factors come into play or get worse with a high stress lifestyle. And I realized that I wanted to regain my health from the inside out. I wanted to make better choices in my life. And in so doing, I needed to slow it down. I needed to reorient myself and realize that I wanted to be more impacted by internal factors rather than external factors. And in so doing, my life had to shift. I had to change friends. I had to change associates. I had to stop doing things that were not healthy for me. And I became more focused on what I really enjoyed doing, which was peace and rest. I enjoyed my peace of mind so much because I gained so many more insights when I'm feeling at peace, which means I can't have friends who are not committed to peace. I cannot have friends who are not committed to happiness. I cannot engage in gossip and negativity and, shame and shading and all of these things that really create more stress and negativity in my life. And I had to focus on, prior to my being married, finding a man who understood and valued the feminine aspects of life and who wanted that feminine energy and who wanted to do his part to support a feminine woman in being the most feminine that she could be, because he understands that that's a quality that he needs in his life. And certainly my husband, when he was courting me heavily, it was very clear that, he was not interested in marrying an angry woman or a woman who had not healed certain aspects of herself that would be detrimental to a healthy relationship. And he did not want to marry a masculine woman who is like coming home to another man who is competing with him on the simplest of things in life and who's constantly looking for ways to create issues about sense of fairness or quote unquote equality. And so that was something that he really liked about me, because I always said that we are both powerful, both the masculine and the feminine. We're just differently powered. So I am not in a battle of the egos. I have no interest at all at puffing up my chest and being more masculine than him. I have complete 100% interest in being the most feminine, relaxed, comfortable, self-supporting, meaning emotionally supporting woman that I can be. And that required that I step out of the rat race of life, meaning to step out of this fight or flight mode, step out of survival mode. And so that's why, I made sure that I wanted to live a life where if I'm with a man, that I am not financially struggling, that we're not financially struggling, that it's not a constant stress, that we can focus on other things in life and focus on a joyful relationship rather than focusing on how the water bill is going to get paid every day and or how the gas is going to be maintained and how are we going to have enough to buy food. These are not the type of things that I wanted to experience anymore in my life. And I made sure that I created a life for that and of that. And so I just had a lot of aha moments because I realized even in certain demographics and certain communities, it's no wonder why unity of purpose can't be achieved. It's no wonder why, people can't gather in a space without fight starting. It's no wonder why some of the lowest vibrational behaviors are displayed on a regular basis because the entire demographic in this particular area or entire community is so focused on survival mode that it's hard to maintain positivity. It's hard to maintain expansiveness and get yourself into a calm state where you can be in a creative space, where you can think about solutions for getting out of it. And so it just made so much sense to me. And so I just wanted to share that with you ladies and maybe ask you about, what's going on in your life. Are you finding that you are in survival mode, that you're feeling stressed, that you're not feeling healthy inside or out? And, is your health being affected? Are you not able to take care of yourself and exercise and eat healthily? And are you regularly filled with anxiety or depression and stress? These are very, very important concepts and life experiences to really look at and realize that you don't have to go through life repetitively experiencing these emotions and these life experiences, that in fact, you can get help, you can get counseling and coaching, and you can shift your mindset even before you see the the fruition of what you desire. But first you've got to at least have the desire. You've got to at least before that even, you've got to know that there is a different way, that there's a different life, that you don't have to live in fight or flight. And in fact, it's shortening your life because no human body is made to deal with that much stress all the time. You're actually supposed to utilize fight or flight for very short bursts of energy to save yourself, to preserve the species, so to speak. It's to run quickly to get out of danger and then calm back down. But if you're living in that mode all the time, it's no wonder that our life expectancy for many demographics are shortening, and just the overall quality of life is just really not good from an emotional, financial, and physical point of view. And we want to shift that. We want to effect a juicy transformation. We want to hone our skills and become the diamonds that we truly are. And I'd like for you to reflect on your own life and understand and know that if you are experiencing this, there is a better way. There's a different way to live. But you've got to first know that that's possible and then have a desire to shift and then get the assistance that you need. I do provide beautiful mind life coaching. There are many other coaches that I can recommend. But first and foremost, take care of you and put yourself first. This has been Leah Love. I hope that this was valuable for you and maybe provided a little bit of insight. You can find more out about me at Leah, Leah, loveonline.com. That's leahloveonline.com. And I have my different services. I've got another podcast, Two Ladies Chat, with a dear friend of mine and an expert law of attraction coach by the name of Carney Lauren Walker. And of course, I have this podcast as well and my YouTube channel. And I love talking about all things femininity, marriage, life, children. I'm a homeschooling mom as well. I'm a grandmother and currently going through a fitness challenge. And I've given myself the date of August 31st to reach my gorgeous dream body. And I am almost there. But I've put it out there on my Facebook page, accountability and transparency. And I have stuck with it. It's challenging at times, kind of slowed down last week, but these are the things that I talk about is love, transformation, fitness, family, marriage, femininity, dating with purpose, and many more things. So thank you so much for joining me today. I went a little bit longer, but I was really about this topic. I'm totally for it. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.